Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Everybody here on Zoom and everybody on YouTube. And I'm just getting my computer set up here for a second. So I was just reminding everybody that in February, February 10th and February 11th is Losar. And Losar is the yearly New Year that is celebrated in Tibet and by many Asian folks and so on. So there'll be some prayers and a smoke offering done at Drikung Dharma Surya Center in Fairfax, Virginia. I'm quite sure on Saturday. So if you can possibly meet us there, would be really terrific. I will send information very soon so you can make arrangements. It's only like 3 weeks away or something. So that would be wonderful. We can meet together there, be there for the festivities. There'll be food will be there, lunch will be there, and we'll get to meet. There'll be a lot of Tibetan people there and other people. So that would be a wonderful thing. Okay, so we are continuing with our Ngöndro practice, the introduction to that. And today I made myself a note so I don't forget, because what is very important with all these practices, everything that we do, but we really learn this through the Ngöndro practice, is doing prostrations. And prostrations are a means of being able to stabilize our mindfulness of our refuge in the three jewels, in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, and through the lineage that we belong to. So ultimately, in a big scale, we are the lineage of Buddha Shakyamuni. But then Buddha Shakyamuni's lineage has, over the years, divided into many smaller lineages, which are all very good, and they all speak of the same things and so on. So this is what we're learning about with the Ngöndro. So we should be doing prostrations when we come into our meditation space, into our meditation room, our shrine room, wherever we see images of the Buddha and so on. So I wanted to demonstrate that for those of you who may not be familiar with it, and to encourage you to incorporate the prostrations into your opening prayers. So I'm going to switch cameras, and I'm going to have to move the camera around a little bit so that you can see. We're in my shrine room, and this is the front of the shrine room. So we begin. I'm going to move the camera. Okay. And we begin facing the shrine, facing the statues that we might have, the pictures, the images that we might have, the offerings that we have, and so on, like that we are facing that. And we're standing straight, and we are gathering the blessings. Om, Ah, Hum, body, speech, and mind, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So we're doing this from our forehead, our throat, and to our heart. And then if we're able to, if we have the body strength to be able to do it, not everybody can do it, that we do the 5-point prostration. So here what we are doing, Om Ah Hum, and then I'm going down, and I'm going to have to move the camera again. Let's see. So I'm Om Ah Hum, and then I come down onto the floor, and now both my hands are on the floor, and both my knees are on the floor. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide my hands forward, come belly down onto the floor. I hope you can see me. And then I extend my arms, and then I'm gathering the blessings by bringing the blessings into my crown by raising my hands like that. Uh, can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, good. So you can hear me and you can see me doing that. And then I stand up and then I do again, Om, Ah, Hum. And then I go back down, sliding my hands on the floor, my knees on the floor, sliding forward. My forehead touches the ground. My forehead touching the ground is the fifth point. So the two hands, the two knees, the two legs, and then the forehead makes the fifth point. You're gathering the blessings and you stand once again. So you would do that 3 times. Now, in the case of those of us who can't do the full body prostration, then another choice would be to go to your knees. You can see me with my knees on the floor, and I do the Om Ah Hum, my forehead, the crown, the throat, and the heart. And then I'm just bringing my hands to the floor like this. My knees are already on the floor, and then I'm touching my forehead to the ground. And I come back up and Om Ah Hum. And then I come back down, touch the ground, and do that 3 times. So that's an abbreviated prostration that we can do. It's mindfulness, so whatever is, keeping, our focus on what it is that we're doing, our body, speech, and mind. Om Ah Hum. We are taking refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. The third way to do this, if you can't do the full body prostration, if you can't do the abbreviated prostration on your knees, then just standing and bow a little bit and the Om Ah Hum, and then you're bowing a little bit, Om Ah Hum, you're bowing a little bit, Om Ah Hum, you're bowing a little bit, doing that 3 times. So that's the prostrations. Does anybody have any questions or comments about that?
I don't think so. So internally, just trying to like foster a feeling of devotion, I would imagine, to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha while doing the prostration.
Exactly. Respect and devotion.
Respect and devotion, yeah.
Respect and devotion to the Buddha and to the lineage of the Buddha, to the body, speech, and mind of the Buddha, all the enlightened ones, and to the lineage. And that's what the Ngöndro is about, is being able to identify what the lineage is. So that's what we're working on. So the prostrations are part of that. And actually, as we continue on, you'll see that the accumulation of the recitation of the mantra and the accumulation of 100,000 prostrations is the result of doing this practice. So it sounds quite daunting, I know, in the beginning. 100,000 accumulation, that's quite a lot, and it is. But what it does over and over and over again, you're doing it, maybe you're doing 50 a day, or maybe you come to 75 a day, or 100 a day, or whatever. You're accumulating those. And as you're going through that, it's like a millstone. You're purifying, you're grinding away impurities. You're refining, you're purifying yourself, all the emotions, all the things that we study, all the things that we talk about through the intellectualization of what the Dharma is. Then we're putting it into action by doing these refuge prostrations. So as we progress, you'll see that the words and so the meaning of this practice, we literally begin to use like that millstone that is grinding and purifying our emotions, our preconceptions. Okay, so so we begin with with our booklet, the Uncommon Preliminary Practices. So we're going to go through the first part that we went through last week without interruption, unless somebody has a burning question. There will be time for questions and answers later on, but if we can go through this, would be very good. And then we'll get to the point where we left off last time, and then we will continue our discussion on the explanation. So please take notes. Feel free to take notes in the book. I recommend you do it in pencil, but no problem if you prefer your notes in another kind of a book or a plain piece of paper, that's fine. But and if you put them in your book, you have them right there along with the sections of the text that the notes would be referring to. Okay, so we begin by reciting the introduction. So we do all this out loud. It's very important to do it out loud, to hear ourselves do it. For the benefit of all sentient beings, the most gracious Buddha, Shakyamuni, spoke the Dharma through the sutras and tantras. The 5 profound paths of Mahamudra and the 6 yogas of Naropa are the essence of the Buddha's teachings, which enable one to attain enlightenment even in one lifetime. However, to practice the path of Mahamudra and the 6 yogas of Naropa, one must be fully convinced of the 4 ways of turning the mind, or the 4 ordinary foundations. The 4 ways of turning the mind are the basis for the successful practice of any of the yanas. Then one practices the 4 extraordinary foundations, or the Vajrayana Ngöndro, to purify the negative karma and obscurations of the mind, speech, and body, and to develop virtues. The great 12th century Tibetan saint, Lord Jigden Sumgun, the second Nagarjuna, said, "The Ngöndro is even more important than the higher practices." One must truly understand and practice the simple yet profound foundational teachings before one begins the higher teachings. The altruistic motivation. All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. Dagla dangwa je pe dra no pa je pe geg. Tar pa dang tam she ken pe bar du jo par je pa tam she ki so je pe. Manam kadam yam pe sem chen tam she de wa dang den. Dog now dang drel nor du la na me pa yang dag par zog pe zhang zhu bren po she to pa ja. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. De she du sang ma ge gi bar du lu na gi sam ge wa la ko. Ma she bar du lu na gi sam ge wa la ko. Du de ring ne song te ni ma sang ta sam gi bar du lu na gi sam ge wa la ko. I'm going to change cameras and so you can see the long refuge prayer. All sentient beings, limitless as the sky, take refuge in the glorious kind Lama Vajradhar, embodiment of the body, speech, and mind, qualities and activities of the Buddhas of the 10 directions and the 3 times, source of the 84,000 categories of the teachings, and Lord of the Sanghas. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. In Tibet, starting on page 4. Nam ke ta dam nam pe sem chen tam she chok su du sum yi. De shin se pa tam she ki ku song tong yong she gi no war jer pa. Choki pom po ton chak ga chu ta chi jung ne. Pape ge dun tam she gi nada. Trin sen sa wa danger pa je pe pal dan lama dam pa nam la kapsu chi o. Yedam kil gorgi la sok nam la kapsu chi o. Sangye chom den de nam la kapsu chi o. Dampe cho nam la kapsu chi o. Pape ge dun nam la kapsu chi o. Pawo kadro cho kyong song me song yes she gi cheng dang dempa nam la kapsu chi o. Until I attain the heart of enlightenment, I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma, and likewise in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas embraced the enlightened mind and progressed on the Bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of all sentient beings, give birth to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path. Until I attain the heart of enlightenment, I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma, and likewise in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas embraced the enlightened mind and progressed on the Bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of all sentient beings, give birth to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path. Shang Shu Ning Po Chi Ki Ba Sangye Nam La Kapsu Chi Chodang Shang Shu Senpa Yi So Klang De Shin Kapsu Chi Jitar Nongi De Shegi Shang Shub Tugni Ke Padan, Shang Shub Sampe La Pala, Te Dagrim Shin Ne Patar, Te Shin Dro La Pandandu, Shang Shub Samni Ke Gishing, Te Shin Du Ni La Pala, Rinpa Shindu La Pa Ji O. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. Sangye Chodang Soki Chonam Shangju Baidu Dagni Kapsuchi Dagi Jinsoki Pe Sanamgi Drola Penshir Sangye Jupasho. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. Manam kadam yam pesam chantam she dewa dang dewe grudang dampar jurchi. Dug now dang now gi gudang drawar jurchi. Dug now me pe dewa dang mi drawar jurchi. Ne ring chak dang ni dang drawe tang nam la ne pa jurchi. Page 11. Whatever merit I have gathered through prostrations, offerings, confession, rejoicing, beseeching, and praying, for the sake of the enlightenment of all sentient beings, all this I dedicate. Chak sa wadang cho ching sa padang, Jesu yi rang kol sing so wa yi. Ke wa jung se da gi ji sak pa, tam se zog pe shang ju chir no. 4 ways of turning the mind. Oh, this kind of leisure and endowment is supremely difficult to obtain. When we obtain this body, which is easily lost, do not waste it meaninglessly, but rather use it to attain the ultimate liberation, joyous result. Contemplate on precious human life. The nature of all phenomena is impermanence. Death is a certainty for all who are born. Death can descend any time, like a drop of morning dew on a blade of grass. Quick, it is time to make effort for the essence of the Dharma. Contemplate the meaning of impermanence. Next, the fruit of one's positive karma is happiness. Suffering is the fruit of negative karma. The inexorable karmic causation is the mode of abiding of all dharmas. Henceforth, practice the Dharma by distinguishing between what should be practiced and what should be given up. Contemplate the meaning of karma, cause, and result. Next, in the three lower realms, and even in the three higher ones, there is not an instant of absolute happiness. I will avoid the root cause of my samsaric existence and practice the excellent path of peace to enlightenment. Contemplate on the suffering of samsara. Okay, so now we visualize the Vajra fence, the protection circle. Om, I, o, ri, li, o, kaka, gagana, zaza, zazana, tata, dadana, papa, babama, yaralawa, saha, kriya, soha. Om, I, ri, li, o, kaka, gagana, zaza, zazana, tata, dadana, papa, babama, yabalawa, saha, kriya, soha. Om, I, ri, li, o, kaka, gagana, zaza, zazana, tata, dadana, papa, babama, yawalawa, saha, kriya, soha. Om Yudharma Hetu Pavawa Hetu Tekan Tadagato Heawa Tatata Takansa Yonarada Evamwadi Mahashamaniye Soha. All phenomena arise from causes. Those causes have been taught by the Tathagata. Their cessation too has been proclaimed by the great ascetic, the Shramaniye. So be it. Om, Om, Yadharma, Hetu, Prabhava, Hetu, Takan, Tathagato, Heo, Watatata, Takansa, Yonarada, Evamwadi, Mahashamaniye, Soha. Om Bajra Sattva Samaya Manu Palaya Bajra Sattva Tenopa Justa Dredo Mebawa Suto Kayo Mebawa Supo Kayo Mebawa Anu Raktu Mebawa Sara Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sara Karma Sitsa Me Sitsan Triya Kuru Hung Ha Ho Bhagawan Sara Tathagata Bajra Mame Mansa Bajri Bhava Maha Samaya Satwaha. Om Bajra Sattva Samaya. Help to protect my vow to purify myself. May you remain firm with me. Grant me the complete satisfaction. Grow with me. Be loving towards me. Grant me the attainments to master the powers beyond body and nature. Show me all the deeds of body, speech, and mind. Make my mind heart good, virtuous, and auspicious. Revel in the bliss of the four joys, O Blessed One, who embodies the essence within me. Do not abandon me. Grant me the realization of the indestructible nature. Make me one with you. Thus I signify my unity with non-duality. Ah. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manu Palaya Vajrasattva Tenopa Justadredo Me Bawa Suto Kayo Me Bawa Supo Kayo Me Bawa Anuraktu Me Bawa Sara Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sara Karma Sitsa Me Sitsan Triya Kuru Hung Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sara Tadagata Bajramame Mansa Bajri Baba Maha Samaya Satwaha Om Bajra Satwa Samaya Manu Palaya Bajra Satwa Tenopa Justadredo Me Bawa Suto Kayo Me Bawa Supo Kayo Me Bawa Anuraktu Me Bawa Sara Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sara Karma Sitsa Me Sitsan Triya Kuru Hung Ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sara Tadagata Bajra Mame Mansa Bajri Bhava Maha Samaya Satwaha Om Sambar Sambar Bhimanasar Ma Zamba Hung 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 arising from a defiled mind, be reborn into great wisdom. Om Smar Smar Bhimanaskar Mahazambu Hung Pe. Om Smar Smar Bhimanaskar Mahazamba Hung Pe. Om Smar Smar Bhimanaskar Mahazambu 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 Hung Pe arising from defiled lives, remember and purify the flower of wisdom. Om Sambar Sambar Mahazambu Hung Pe. 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 Om Sambar Sambar Mahazambu Hung Pe arising great holy wisdom, purify this life. Mala blessing. Om Ruchiramana Pravataya Hong Pe. 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 Om Ruchiramani Pravataya Hong Pe. Om Ruchiramana Pravataya Hong Pe. Om Ruchiramana Pravataya Hong Pe. The enlightened body, speech, and mind of the precious Dharma protectors, whose mirror-like wisdom is the door to purification. Om Re Pamanurti Shwari Hong. 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 The body, speech, and mind of pure love is the ultimate wisdom. Om Ah Hong, 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 Om Ah Hong. Does anybody have any questions, comments about the opening prayers? Okay, so next we go to the practice of taking refuge, the first section of the Drikung Kagyu Ngöndro. The benefits of taking refuge. If the merit of taking refuge in the triple gem could manifest in form, the whole universe could not contain it. Even though attempting to describe the infinite benefits of practicing refuge is like attempting to empty the ocean with a teaspoon. There are 8 benefits as explained in the Jewel Ornament of Liberation. One becomes a Buddhist. It becomes the basis of all the precepts and vows. It exhausts all previous non-virtuous deeds. It protects one from obstacles created by humans and non-human. One accomplishes all one wishes. One gathers a great amount of merit. One will not fall into the lower realms. One attains Buddhahood swiftly. Refuge practice is the essence of all other practices. Therefore, one always should emphasize this practice. It has inconceivable beneficial effects. Through this practice, one can achieve the fearless state. Note, with one pointed mind, take refuge in the 3 jewels. Om, Ahom, body, speech, and mind, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Meditate the surroundings as inseparable from a Buddha field. In the space in front of me is a lion throne, in which are a lotus, sun, and moon disk seat, in the center of which sits the kind root Lama in the form of Vajradhara with the 7 characteristics. Blue in color, 2 arms, holding a Vajra and bell crossed at the heart, and gracefully sitting in the Vajra position, adorned by the silken robes and various precious jewel ornaments and surrounded by the lineage lamas. So now I'm going to screen share. If you've got your image of the lineage tree, I'm going to screen share this. So I hope you can see this. And if I do this, right. And if I do this, get this out. Oh, this one, I gotta do this. Sorry, 1 second, I just got to correct this. Sorry, I just want to be able to fix this image. Okay. So
I think we could see Vajradhara in the center. It just doesn't come out as a high resolution, but we can see the outline and the colors and posture.
Okay, so now you should be able to see the image on the screen that we have here. And okay. Come on, I want this to. So in the center here, I heard that's what Alex was just saying. So meditate the surround. I'm going back to the text. It says meditate the surroundings as inseparable from a Buddha field. So we're visualizing that our space, our room where we are right now is a Buddha field. And in the space in front of me is a lion throne on which are the lotus, sun, and moon disk seat. So what we are looking at here in the center is Vajradhara. Let me see if I can zoom this. I've rehearsed this, and now I can't get to where I want this to be. Well, right in the center here, this is Vajradhara. So Vajradhara has a blue body, and his hands are crossed at his heart. His left hand is holding the bell, and the right hand is holding the Vajra. He's sitting in the lotus position, and he is the primordial Buddha, Vajradhara, so pure that he is unborn, and is within the heart center of all beings, and in particular, the masters, the lineage masters. So he is the unborn primordial nature, Buddha nature, that is in the heart, that is in the center of the lineage tree. So it's the kind root Lama in the form of Vajradhara with the 7 characteristics. So the 7 characteristics then are identified. He's blue in color. He has 2 arms holding a Vajra and bell, crossed at the heart and gracefully sitting in the Vajra position. Adorned with the silken robes and various precious jewel ornaments and surrounded by all the lineage lamas. In front of the lion throne, so it says, in front of the lion throne is the Yidam Chakra Samvara, the male and female aspects in union, whose manifestation is simultaneously appearance and emptiness. So right here, underneath what appears to be underneath of Vajradhara, but you have to visualize this as a 3D, 3-dimensional tree. So Vajradhara is in the center of the tree, but that out in front is a limb. Out in front is a limb, and this is where Chakra Samvara is. It says, in front of the lion throne is the Yidam Chakra Samvara, the male and female aspects in union, whose manifestation is appearance and emptiness. So Chakra Samvara is the Yidam of the Drikung Kagyu lineage. So he is the main tutelary deity, the main deity that helps us to be able to recognize what it is of appearances and what it is of emptiness, of phenomenal nature, the nature of phenomena, emptiness. We see appearances, we experience appearances. And through the practice of Chakra Samvara, we learn to recognize all the various elements of those appearances, those spiritual elements, and so on. So the Ngöndro, what we're doing is preparing us to be able to do that practice of Chakra Samvara sometime down the road, so to speak, that we will be able to do that. But right now, we're recognizing that there is this there is this third part here. So around here, so where Chakra Samvara is, on either side of him, going around like a belt around the tree, is all the other Yidam deities, such as Vajrakalaya, such as Vajrapani, such as Naratmiya, such as Hevajra, so many different tutelary deities, so many different Yidam deities different lineages, like the lineage of the Dalai Lama, for instance, might have another yidam for their lineage. Like they would have He Vajra, so, or would have Yamantaka. So there's all these different, so we learn these, you see, through this practice. We begin to learn this through this practice by identifying all these different deities here. So right now, this is our first introduction to this. So the next sentence says, at the right side of the throne is the assembly of the Buddhas of the three times, possessing the auspicious signs of a Buddha, together with the 1,000 Buddhas of this glorious Kalpa. So over on this side here, to the right of the throne, so the throne would be Vajradhara. So over here on his right, it's our left, but on his right, this represents Buddha Shakyamuni, who is in the center. Buddha Shakyamuni, who is in the center, and then surrounding him are the 1,000 Buddhas of this Kalpa. The 1,000 Buddhas of this glorious Kalpa, as it is said. So, of course, there's not 1,000 pictured here, but we're imagining that. And it's not limited to just 1,000. It may be multiples of 1,000. It may be 10,000. It may be 100,000. It may be 500,000. It may be 1,000,000. That there have been many, many, many Buddhas who have appeared in this world from the time of Buddha Shakyamuni. So this limb here, this on the right side here, is characterizing that for us, illustrating that for us. Now, this is all symbolic. It's not literal. It is symbolic. So we're visualizing that our world, our existence in this three-dimensional way, and has these spiritual characteristics about it. So I'll read this again. It says, at the right side of the throne is the assembly of the Buddhas of the three times, the past, present, and future, possessing the auspicious signs of a Buddha, together with the 1,000 Buddhas of this fortunate Kalpa. So this Kalpa, this time that we have, this Kalpa of Buddha Shakyamuni. Now it says, the next sentence says, behind the throne is the Prajnaparamita, proclaiming the relative and ultimate meaning of the three yanas. So the Prajnaparamita, if you look at the screen, I'm using my pointer here, and you can see that here is, oh, wait a minute, I just remembered how I can blow this up. Okay, this is what I was trying to remember. So here is this is the Prajnaparamita. These are the texts of the Prajnaparamita, of which the sutras are part of this, or rather, these paramitas are part of the sutras. So if you go into a Dharma center like Dharma Surya Center, you look on the right side and the left side of the shrine, of the throne, of the altar, and you will see all these books that are stored there. These are the Kagyu texts, of which is the Prajnaparamita. The Prajnaparamita are the perfection of wisdom texts. So this is understanding virtue, what virtue is, how to attain virtue, how to stabilize virtue. So this is behind, this is on a limb behind the center throne, here being the center throne of Vajradhara. And this was Shakrasamvara. Now I remember how to blow this up. And then here was all the other yidams in this band that goes around, this belt that goes around. So here are all the texts behind the lineage tree. This is called the lineage tree. Here in the center, at the top center, is Lord Jigden Sumgun. Lord Jigden Sumgun is the founder of this Drikung Kagyu lineage. So he's pictured at the top of this lineage here. So we'll come back to him in just a moment. Okay, behind the throne is the Prajnaparamita proclaiming the relative and ultimate meaning of the three yanas. So the three yanas are the Hinayana, the Mahayana, and the Vajrayana, the three vehicles of the Dharma. So these books all contain all that. So that's behind the tree. So then next it says, to the left of the throne is the assembly of the compassionate bodhisattvas, surrounded by the Sangha of the three yanas. So this is here. This is this limb here. This is to the left of Vajradhara. This is in the center here is Avalokiteshvara Shenreze is in the center, and then around him are all these bodhisattvas. So it's the 8 great bodhisattvas that we've talked about before, not recently, but we this past year we talked about the 8 great bodhisattvas: Kasiti Garbha, Maitreya, Akasa Garbha, Samantabhadra, Shenreze, Manjushri, Vajrapani, and Sarvanavarana Vishkabin. So here they are placed along with so many other bodhisattvas. So it says, to the left of the throne is the assembly of the compassionate bodhisattvas surrounded by the Sangha of the three yanas. So the three yanas, that would mean these 8 great bodhisattvas and so on. So this is symbolic of all those bodhisattvas, all those holy beings who are on the path to become Buddha, but have paused their progression to become Buddha in order that they may help all sentient beings to realize their true nature. So these are the bodhisattvas. Then around the base of the throne are the Dharmapalas. So if I go here, these here these along here are Dharmapalas, are Dharma protectors. These right along here that are nestled into the clouds. You see the clouds here? So these are the Dharmapalas. The Dharmapalas are the Dharma protectors. Dharma are like Mahakala. Mahakala is one of the Dharma protectors. I'm drawing a blank for a second here. We'll come back to that. I'm sorry, I can't. Right now I'm drawing a blank and I don't have a book in front. I don't have any notes in front of me to remind me. So these are the Dharmapalas, the Dharma protectors. So these are beings who have maybe had a transformation from being a very difficult being, a very difficult yogi or something, like Mahakala, for instance, was a great practitioner whose head had been chopped off by some hunters who came in to his cave. And he was very upset and mad. And the hunters brought with them the head of a buffalo. And so Mahakala was looking around with his hands in his cave trying to find his head. But he found the head of this buffalo and he put it on his head. And now he became this human body with this buffalo head. And he was enraged at at what these hunters had done. So he did bad deeds. He killed the hunters and so on. And he went down in the village and he started doing bad things in the village and so on. And then Manjushri met him. the youthful Manjushri of wisdom, of the holder of the Prajna Paramita, came to him and subdued Mahakala. And Mahakala then became a Dharma protector who said, oh, I realize I did bad things, but with my compassion and with my skillfulness, I am going to help all other beings. So the Dharmapalas help to print the books, they help to provide books, they help to provide the facilities, they help to manage the travel and so on, and to protect the travel of the deity, of the lamas, and so on like that. So they become Dharma protectors. Achichodron, Akichoki Joma is an example of a Dharma protector. She clears away negativity. She clears away bad health. So they help to foster our learning and our practices. So these are the Dharma protectors that are in the clouds at the base of the bell of the tree. So let me, so here you see the tree and you see it's shaped like a bell. So they are on the tree, but at the base, the base of the tree like this. So around the base of the throne of the Dharmapalas, an ocean of guardians gathered like clouds. So also here are the four guardian kings. So here they're showing them. They're showing this, of course, in two dimensions. But there would be a north, there would be an east, there would be a south, and there would be a west. And each one of these Dharma kings are stationed around the base of the tree, in order they become like interlocutors who are questioning the veracity of your understanding and practice of the Dharma. So these kings are like protecting the tree from those who might come in to do harm, but also allowing those who are committed and have taken vows to be able to proceed along the tree, to come into the tree. These are the Dharma kings. Then around here, now the rest of the tree is filled with the 37 Kagyu masters, with those who have been the throne holders of the Drikung Kagyu. So Lord Jigten Sumgön was the first of these, was the founder, but then through the lineage, when he passed away, then the second took the throne. Then when he passed away, then the third one took the throne. When he passed away, then the fourth one took the throne, etc. And now we are presently in the midst of the 37th, 38th throne holders. So these images here are demonstrating or symbolizing those that are on the tree here, like that. Down here, this is like samsara. At the bottom of the tree, the very bottom, you see the trunk of the tree. And down here, you see the water. This is like samsara, the ocean of suffering. So coming out of the ocean of suffering is the rising of this tree. And here at the very base, you see different images of, here is a melong. This is a mirror, to be able to point out the appearances of what samsara appears to be, but actually samsara is nirvana, that is unrecognized, but then becomes recognized by these other deities that are here to help us to recognize and so on. These are different deities that are either nagas or wrathful deities, fierce deities, are here to help us to purify when we are very difficult, and we need to have great compassion in order to overcome our difficulties, these deities are there to help us to purify the negativity. So their compassion has to be more fierce, has to be greater than our negativity. So they are not wrathful in the sense that they are hateful. They're not hateful. They are full of love and compassion to overcome the negativity, the hatred, or the ignorance, or whatever that human beings are showing, sentient beings are showing in samsara. So now, other parts of the tree, here at the very top, here, these are the lineage masters of Talopa, Naropa, Marpa, Milarepa, and Dormalargampopa, and Pagmadrupa. So these are the founders of what has become the Kagyu lineage. So here are some Mahasiddhas, some great Mahasiddhas are the great accomplished ones who come to help facilitate the enlightenment of ordinary human beings and so on, sentient beings. So they here are at this like a handle. It's shaped like a bell. So it's not coincidental that if you have a Dharma bell, that this tree is shaped just like that bell. So here is the, if you're looking at the tree, you're looking at the screen right here and my cursor going around. You see on the right side of this tree up here, these are the practitioners of the aspiration lineage. So we've talked about this when we were talking about bodhicitta, and we were talking about the purification process. We were talking about this in the jewel ornamental liberation. So these are the practitioners of the aspiration lineage, and in the center is Manjushri, and then over here on the other side, on the left side, is the practitioners of the action lineage. So these are of Manjushri also, Maitreya. So so we can go through each one of these at some point, and but not now. Go through the detail of each one of these. So this is aspiration lineage. This is action lineage. So all this is all in front of us. This is the tree that is in front of us, and we are approaching this tree by taking these prostrations in order that we may become purified enough to be able to successfully become part of the tree. Over here on this upper right hand, our left hand side, but right hand side of the tree is Amitayus, Buddha Amitayus, who is the immortal Buddha, the Buddha of immortality, who does not die, is not reborn, is beyond birth, is beyond death. This is Amitayus. And over here on this side is Vajrasattva, the purification bodhisattva, to help us to purify and become a worthy vessel of attaining a place on the tree. Over here is Sukhavati. This is Buddha Amitabha in the Sukhavati heaven as it's being symbolized here. And over on this side is Medicine Buddha, who is over on this side here. Here, I can't tell what that is. I can't tell what that is. Sorry about that. So this is the lineage tree in order that we may have a focal point for our mindfulness, that this is what we are approaching to become part of, to take our place on the tree of the Drikung Kagyu lineage. Does anybody have any questions or comments about this?
Oh, Lance, I'm wondering if Milarepa is there somewhere.
Milarepa would be up here, yes.
Mhm.
Milarepa is up here in this top part right here, yes. Can you see? So if I blow it up, because he is one of the founders, considered to be one of the founders, here he is right here. See him with his right hand to his right ear? That is the image of Milarepa.
Okay, usually he's like green in color, but
Well, in this image, he's a pale green. There we go. Whoops. There he is here. So usually when he's in this position, I've always seen him in this position to have a normal, a white flesh tone. Because here he's in his realized position with his hand up here, and this was his body position as he was singing the real songs of realization. So he'd already attained enlightenment at this point. When he was green, at the green point, when he was eating nettles and so on, he was still in his formative stage. He hadn't fully become a Buddha at that point. He was still in the cave at that time and so on. But when he came down out of the cave after achieving Buddhahood, then he came down and he took this body position.
thanks, it makes sense.
Yes. So reading these stories of the different deities and different masters and so on really, really helps. And, and you just don't read them one time, you read them several times. And the information is there. It just has to kind of rise up sometimes. So this is Marpa in the center. And then this over here, this is Gampopa. Can you see the image on the screen? And here in the center here is Padmadrupa. And here above is Vajradhara. And here is Talopa, and here is Naropa. Does anybody else have a comment or question?
So Vajradhara appears in a couple places because
Yes.
he's doing
Yes.
different things.
Yeah, and here's Nagarjuna. They got, they're showing different masters and so on like that. So yes. So remember, this is a narrative book, if you will. This is a reference for us. We can look at this and we can look at all these individual pieces on here and put together in our mind how the Buddha, how the Sangha, how the lineage is constructed. So it's a snapshot of our potential, of our realized potential, and those who have attained that potential. So the whole thing is a mnemonic. So this image should be in front of you as you are doing your practices. This should be on your altar. If you wanted a big poster size, if you want a big poster size, as big as you want, I can send you the PDF file and you can take it to a print shop like Kinko's or FedEx or wherever they have. There's big printers, there's big roller printers, and they'll print it for you. It might cost $40 or $50 for the print, but then it would be very high resolution. And then you could frame it and use it like that if you want it as a tanka like that. So I've got one that's very, very high resolution. I used to be able to do some of these at Dharmasuriya, but I'm not down there like I used to be.
Wow, that's great to know. I never seen such detailed explanation, so I appreciate.
Well, thank you. You're welcome. I'm sorry it wasn't a better. The lamas can certainly go into more detail, and as we progress along doing the nunjo, if we have questions about this and we want to go into more detail, well, then we can spend a whole session just talking about one particular part of the lineage tree. But right now, this is an introduction to it. Okay.
I have some questions.
Yes.
One being when visualizing this, trying to think how to ask the question. So with the figures in the lineage tree, in the visualization, are they when we're doing the practice and visualizing them, are they like almost like alive or something? Are they in relation to us as well? Like, are they again in the imagination, in the visualization, viewing us, having experience of us doing this, or is it more almost like imagining like a tanka type of thing like that we're just using as a mnemonic? Does that make sense?
Exactly. Yeah. No, it is a mnemonic, and all of this, remember, is within ourselves. So this is showing our potential. We are Shenreze. We are Mahakala. We are all these different deities that are on the tree, along with the other human beings who have been on the path to realizing that. So again, it goes back to the wish-fulfilling jewel. That this jewel is like that tree, and it has all these different facets on it. It's another way of expressing the same thing, that all this is within ourselves, and we're coming to recognize all those different things, all the qualities, all the activities that are associated with those particular deities and realized ones are the potential of what we have within ourselves. So through recognizing it with them, it helps us to recognize it with ourselves. We transform ourselves into those activities, into those qualities.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess yeah, no, it makes and your explanation of all of this was terrific. I guess for me, it would almost like if I don't know if this is how people are doing when they're doing the practice. It would almost be more powerful for me if I was imagining them there, like as in like they're watching me do the practice while I'm doing it. Obviously, it's all within me and within my imagination, not in some like solidified way or something. But like these figures are yeah, kind of like alive in the room with me or something like that. I don't know if that's the typical way to do it. That seems like a very powerful way for me, or like to think about it or do it. But
well, that I think that becomes godlike, goddesses like. We start thinking that they're these exterior beings, these external beings who are creating an influence on us. And that's the problem with all the other traditional religions. They're saying it's outside of you. But the thing about Buddhism, it says, oh, it's all inside of you.
right, no, I'm definitely with you. Not as external things that exist in some kind of intrinsic way outside of my own projection of them, maybe. But I guess I'm getting lost in the weeds with my question, I think. But just I don't know, envisioning it in that way. Again, not as they are literal external beings, but just like they're alive. It's almost like they're like it's alive. It's not like I'm imagining just a picture or something.
Well, and
It's
that's
all
the
within my
benefit.
imagination or something. But I don't want to get lost in the weeds with it. But
But that's the benefit of having a shrine room and having these different statues and paintings or pictures and so on as mnemonics to remind you of that. In my room, like every wall has something on it, and to me, it's like being in the heart of the Buddha. Here's all these all these different icons, all these different Buddhas, but they're all part of the heart of the Buddha, or the heart mind of the Buddha would be more accurate to say it that way. So
Cool. Thanks.
you're welcome. It's a good question. And you know, it's part of that process of how to visualize this, how to bring this inside of ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And the spirit of my question is, for me personally, with the way my mind works, things can get very kind of dry for me, like dry and intellectualized. Often when I find a way to like make it juicier or something for me, then it has more of an impact. Like my heart kind of gets in it, rather than, for me, that again, just with my own psychology and conditioning and things, trying to get out of things becoming too intellectualized or stale or
Right.
something.
Well, Matt, and everybody else, this is why this is the first of the Ngöndro practices. And the reason is because you are really committing your physical body to this process. You're doing the prostrations. We haven't gotten to it yet, but as we are reciting the prayer, the long refuge prayer, at the same time we're doing these 100,000 prostrations. And this is part of that purification. It's more than just a vicarious experience. It is a visceral experience, because your body is transforming. You're seeing it. You're sweating, you know, and your intellectual mind, you know, becomes more and more in tune with the physical body commitment that you're making, and it's opening up your heart. And you find yourself on that tree, you know. So it is in the beginning, it's very mechanical. You're doing the prostrations in a particular way and so on. You're getting the rhythm of it. You're reciting the mantra. You're getting in the rhythm of that. You're bringing it together. But then there's also a meaning to the mantra, and you're thinking about the meaning, and all that comes together. But then all that just kind of disappears. The mechanics of it all disappear. The thinking of it disappears, and it just becomes effortless. And you become just, you know, at one with the tree.
Lance, speaking about the tree, you mentioned there is mirror at the bottom.
There is what at the bottom?
Mirror.
Oh yes, a melong. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, who is like looking at this mirror and seeing the reflection?
You.
Okay, so not the Buddhas. It's we who are looking. Okay.
And when we recognize, so we recognize that all this phenomenal nature is like looking into a mirror. It's just all appearances.
Okay, so the real reality is not what we see in the mirror, but what's really happening. But we only can see the reflection that comes out of the mirror.
Correct.
Because that's basically like what our brain delivers to our consciousness. It's not the real thing.
Correct.
Thank you.
That's right. So all these individual elements, you know, have a meaning like that. And this is what we're on the path to be able to see. If we choose to go on this path, you know, these are all pages in the book, so to speak, of the instruction book on enlightenment, how to attain enlightenment. So the jewel ornamental liberation was the intellectualization of all this. Now this is the practice of it. So when I was pointing to the two sanghas, there was the aspiration sangha and there was the action sangha. So now the two are coming together, you say.
Would you mind, Lance? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
ahead,
I also
man.
had a question about these two lineages. Are these like real existing, like lineages sometime in the history, or this is like kind of virtual sort of lineages of like one way to practice or the other way to practice.
Well, the best way I can explain it right now, if you have this book handy, this is the outline book that we made for the Jewel Ornament of Liberation. So if you go to page 16, you will see the profound view lineage, the aspiration lineage. So it lists all the different masters that you might have read about, you might have heard their names, and so it's broken down for the wisdom lineage, the method lineage, the realization lineage. So you can see what it is that they represent in the development, the intellectual development of becoming enlightened. But then if you go to the next page, page 17, then you can see Shantideva, you can see more of the method. So here on the left page, the profound view, the aspiration, the wisdom lineage. Then below that is the action lineage, which is the method. And then below that is the realization lineage, which is the blessing lineage that the masters bestow upon you. So this is why it's so great to meet Garchen Rinpoche or His Holiness Chetseng Rinpoche or the Dalai Lama, because they are of the blessing lineage. You see, they meeting them, from their heart is coming a power, is coming purity. And we recognize that by being in their midst. Once you recognize that, once you see that when you're close to them, then you never leave that. We're sitting here thousands of miles away, but yet I have an undeniable, indestructible connection with Garchen Rinpoche and with Chetseng Rinpoche and with the Dalai Lama, because I know what that is, because I've experienced that and it stays with me. Have you met somebody like that in your life who was so powerful like that? Maybe it was the Pope. Maybe it was Gandhi. Maybe something somewhere in your life. Maybe it was a rabbi. Maybe some holy being that melted with you, or you melted with them.
Yes, once you meet some kind of meritorious person like that, they are in your memory. You cannot forget them.
And more than just in your memory, in your heart, in your heart mind.
Yes, it's
in your heart mind.
Like in your whole consciousness, it's with you.
Yes.
Oh, okay. And okay, I think I understand now. So those lineages are like different branches of knowledge and blessings
and practice
that connected to the whole Kagyu lineage.
Yeah, so there's the wisdom, there's the method, and there's the blessing.
Mm-hmm.
So the wisdom is the intellectualization, the method is the actualization, and the blessing is the transformation. It's the transformation.
Right, it's something that we cannot put in words easily, but you can sometimes feel the result.
Matthew, did you have another comment?
It was basically the exact question Alex just asked about those two lineages, so that covered it. Great.
Okay. Debbie, would you like to comment on any of this?
Just to say, you're right. Garchen is a very good example. Somebody with serious realization who is very detectable, and then a lot of people, a really large number of people, when they talk about meeting the Dalai Lama, they say the same thing. It's like they're a different form of being, and they do stay with you. They do.
Yeah. And there's a purity there, if it's really true, there's a purity there. You can have that feeling about your mother and your father. You can have that feeling, with your loved ones, your your lovers, your husbands, wives, etc., and so on. But there might be a degree of impurity there. You say, oh, they're really good. I really love them, but I wish they were this way. I wish they were that way. But with these pure blessing beings, it's completely pure. There's no doubt. There's no confusing it with any personality traits or anything like that. It is just pure bodhicitta.
Yeah, it kind of hits you like a hammer.
And that's the Vajra. That is the indestructible wisdom or the indestructible power. So the bell is the feminine wisdom, and the Vajra is the masculine method, actualization of that wisdom. And so Vajradhara is in this position, holding these two like this, because you can have wisdom, but no way to be able to express that wisdom, and it doesn't lead to enlightenment or transformation or liberation, whatever. You can have skillful means, you can have method, but it's not guided by wisdom, and that doesn't lead to enlightenment. But when you have the two together, the wisdom and the skillful means, now you have the clear qualities to be able to attain liberation.
There are many people who are, and including myself in certain parts of my life, that are more interested in the storm of life than peace. But I have met special people from time to time in my life who seem to be able to let the storm swirl around them without being affected by it. And from time to time, I've been able to focus on them and feel that peace, however, be it temporarily, for myself, and recognize that they've found the secret. There are very few people that I've met like that, but I have met them. They do exist. Garchen, of course, is one. The Dalai Lama is another. I haven't met either of them, of course, but there's that quality. They've discovered that special place, that oasis in the spirit.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. What is it you think that is holding people to that storm?
Well, I don't know if this is the right way to express it, but it's not inaccurate. It's part of our socialization in life, not just in this country, but in the world. Conflict almost seems to be a paradigm throughout history, and it still is. And it doesn't seem to be getting any better.
So can you think of it in the least common denominator term, that it's their ego, it's their identity.
Oh,
in
yes.
In that storm, they have a place.
The ego is the engine of it.
Yeah. And then those beings who have transcended the ego are the ones who
Exactly
are the blessing lineage.
We go through life almost one of the earliest things I was taught, and I don't think I was any different from any other boy or girl at the time, was that it is, you've always got to defend yourself. which means by definition that you're always going to be under attack. And if that's the world you perceive, that's the world you will see, and the world you will live in, and the world that you will contribute to.
Okay, yes. All right, I see. Why don't we take a break? Come back at 11 o'clock. Those of you that are in our same time zone, we'll come back in 20 minutes or so, 22 minutes, and we'll get right back into the practice where we left off with this lineage prayer. But you see the importance of having this lineage tree in front of you. Okay. All right. So let's come back in 20 minutes, 11 o'clock, and we'll continue. Thank you very much. Okay, we're continuing. We're on page 28 with the refuge prayer. Buddhas, Dharmas, Sanghas, Yidams, and Dharma protectors, to these supreme objects of refuge, for protection from the hordes of suffering of samsara, we, all migrators, go for refuge until enlightenment is attained. Buddhas, Dharma, Sanghas, Yidams, and Dharma protectors, to these supreme objects of refuge, for protection from the hordes of suffering of samsara, we, all migrators, go for refuge until enlightenment is attained. Sangye cho so gyedam cho kyung che, gab chog nam la dag sok jo wa kun. Si pe jik so nam na le kyob chir. Shang ju ma to ba du kyab su chi. So just to go over this prayer quickly, the Buddhas, Dharmas, and Sanghas we've been familiar with. The Yidams are the tutelary deities that we choose to guide us along the path, to understand how how phenomena and so on, how we're part of phenomena. But phenomena is emptiness. So the Yidams and the Dharma protectors are those beings, as we said earlier, are those beings who have committed themselves to providing the Dharma in the teachings, printing of the Dharma, the books of the Dharma, the stories of the Dharma, to protecting it from people that would come and do damage to the Dharma centers, to construct the Dharma centers, all the different ways in which the facilities are built and maintained are the Dharma protectors. To these supreme objects of refuge, so we take refuge in all these, for protection from the hordes of suffering of samsara, the hordes of suffering, so all the different kinds of demons that are demons within ourselves, all the different non-virtues and so on that may be within ourselves, that we are overcoming those, the hordes of sufferings of samsara, the results of those demons, etc. We, all migrators that we are moving through the different aspects of phenomenal nature, and that into that which are unexplainable to the Dharmakaya. So going through the different bodies, going through the different realms, going through the different aspects of being a human being and being a spiritual being. So there's like migrators going from one place to another. We all go for refuge until enlightenment is attained. So then we go to the next page, 29. It says, I rejoice when all sentient beings are happy and free from the samsaric suffering and swiftly attain ultimate Buddhahood. For this purpose, from now on until I achieve enlightenment, I will follow the path to the ultimate goal. Repeat that 3 times. I rejoice when all sentient beings are happy and free from the samsaric suffering and swiftly attain ultimate Buddhahood. For this purpose, from now on until I achieve enlightenment, I will follow the path to the ultimate goal. Drikung den tog nel drawadan, nor du la me to padagawe. De shir den ne changju ma to bar, ne pe dong chog lam la jug parja. So I rejoice when all sentient beings are happy and free from the samsaric suffering and swiftly attain ultimate Buddhahood. Now, that's an ultimate happiness, isn't it? To be able to have that goal and so on. But at the same time, we see things in a progressive way. We're experiencing it in phenomenal nature in a progressive way. So we need to develop happiness. We need to develop rejoicing along the way, and not looking at the negativity, not looking at the suffering, to dwell on the suffering, but to look at the happiness and to be able to encourage those who are in the suffering mode to be able to get into the happiness mode, to pull them along, not to allow ourselves to be pulled down by the suffering. So I think a lot of this is a question of attitude, what our attitude is. How much are we interrupted from our happiness and pulled back into the suffering? We can rationalize all kinds of reasons. Oh, they need us and everything. This is what we were talking about a little bit ago. Gary brought up the point, being pulled down, rather than looking up. Is the glass half full or is the glass half empty? So if we look at the glass half full, I think it gives us optimism and a direction in which to move towards happiness, towards Buddhahood. It says, for this purpose, then, from now until I achieve enlightenment, I will follow the path to the ultimate goal. So to keep ourselves on the path and to encourage others to be on the path. So this is, aspiration and action. We have this aspiration, we speak of it intellectually, but the actualization is actually doing it, doing the deeds, doing the activities of bodhicitta. So the next page is, now this is the accumulation prayer, the accumulation mantra, which is the refuge prayer, the long refuge prayer that we've been familiar with for a long time. We recite this every day when we do our practices. This is the long refuge prayer. It says, we take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities and the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. So then at the bottom it says, note, recite the refuge prayer as many times as possible. Meditate that the refuge visualization dissolves into oneself, and oneself dissolves into emptiness, and rest in the natural state. So, this is a process. So this prayer now we have to apply to the lineage tree. We go back to the beginning part. It says, we take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. So we're looking at the lineage tree. Let me put that back up. So we take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lama. So the kind root Lama would be Vajradhara, the root Lama, the Vajradhara, who abides within the heart center of all these other monks, all these leaders, all the throne holders, all the lineage lamas. These are the lineage lamas, the kind root lama and the lineage lamas. So we could say that there's a direct path from Vajradhara right to Jigdan Sumgun, and then from Jigdan Sumgun, then down to these other lamas here. So these are 35 lamas here, counting Jigden Sumgun. 35, Chunzang Rinpoche, who is in Lhasa, is the 36th of the lineage lamas, and Chetsang Rinpoche, who resides in Dehradun, Jiangzhou Bling, in the free world, is the 37th Drikung lineage lama. So this is 35. The two living ones who are not here are the 36th and the 37th. So when they pass, then they would, in the next iteration of the lineage tree, then they would be on the lineage tree. And then there would be the 38th and 39th lamas that then would be, that would become, the lineage holders would be the throne holders of the Drikung Kagyu. So we take refuge in the kind root lama and lineage lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the yidams. So these yidams that we talked about here before. We also included here would be these Buddhas and so on. Here it says we take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. So here are all the Buddhas. So there was the mandalas of the yidams down here. These would be the exalted Buddhas. In the next line, we take refuge in the perfect Dharma. The perfect Dharma would be this here, would be the Prajna Paramita, these texts that are behind the tree. It's a three-dimensional tree. And there's the main part of the tree. Then there's a limb out front that is the lineage lamas, or rather the yidams, the yidams. Then on the right side would be the Buddhas. Behind would be a limb behind would be the Prajna Paramita, and then to the left would be the excellent order of the Sanghas. So that's the next line. It says we take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. So that would mean the 8 great bodhisattvas and all the other bodhisattvas. So this is our visualization of the tree. And we take refuge of the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. So these would be those who are at the bottom of the tree here, and down here would be these Dharma protectors down here, and Dharma protectors and Dharma guardians up here, Dakinis, and so on like that would be all there. So all this is part of the tree. This prayer is visualizing the tree. So now, what we're going to do is now we're going to recite this as many times as we can. So we should have a goal. So let's say, for instance, we're going to do 20 times. So we would set up, we have our lineage tree in front of us, and then we're going to do our prostrations 20 times while we recite this prayer. So if you haven't memorized this prayer, it's going to be a bit of a problem. So the first thing that you might want to do is do 3 prostrations and then take your mala beads and start the process of memorizing this prayer so that you can recite this without having to refer to the book, and then be doing your prostrations. So I'm going to do a few of them just to demonstrate that it can be done. So give me a moment here, set this up. Okay. So we would do this in English. We would do this in Tibetan. So I'll do it in English first. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and the lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities and the mandalas of the yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. Drinsen Sawa Dangurpa, Jepe Palden Lama Dampa Namla Kapsu Chio. Yidam Kilgorgi La Sok Namla Kapsu Chio. Sangye Chom Dende Namla Kapsu Chio. Tempeto Namla Kapsu Chio. Pege Du Namla Kapsu Chio. Pa Woka Jochu Kome Shong Yeshegi, Cheng Deng Den De Pa Lama Gampa Namla Kapsu Chio. Drinsen Sawa Dangurpa. Jepe Palden Lama Dampa Namla Kapsu Chio. Yidam Kilgorgi La Sok Namla Kapsu Chio. Sangye Chom Dende Namla Kapsu Chio. Tempeto Namla Kapsu Chio. Papege Du Namla Kapsu Chio. Pawoka Trocha Komeshon Yeshegi. Cheng Deng Dampa Namla Kapsu Chio. Chunsan Sawa Dangurpa. Jepe Palden Lama Dampa Namla Kapsu Chio. Yidam Kilgorgi La Sok Namla Kapsu Chio. Sangye Chom Dende Namla Kapsu Chio. Tempeto Namla Kapsu Chio. Papege Du Namla Kapsu Chio. Pawoka Trocha Komeshon Shung Yeshegi Cheng Deng Dampa Namla Kapsu Chio. Trinsen Sawa Dangurpa, Jepe Palden Lama Dampa Namla Kapsu Chio. Yibam Kilgorgi La Sung Namla Kapsu Chio. Sangye Chom Dende Namla Kapsu Chio. Tempeto Namla Kapsu Chio. Papege Du Namla Kapsu Chio. Pawoka Trocha Komeshon Yeshegi Cheng Deng Dampa Namla Kapsu Chio. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deity, in the Mandalas of the Indians. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. Okay, that's it for me right now. A little bit out of shape. So the accumulation is the prostrations. And what the goal is to do 100,000 perfectly while you're reciting. In order to assure that we're doing 100,000 perfectly, we actually do 111,111. 111, comma, 111. So those extra ones, those 11,111, assure that you're doing 100,000 perfectly. In other words, you can mess up a little bit. So that's the strict way to do it. That's the way it's done in the Drikung Kagyu 3-year retreat by young men and women. So this
like
is
going, it's like going into the army.
well, it is. Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. And as you're doing it, after a while, the first 10,000, of course, is the most difficult. But after the first 10,000, then it becomes memory. You have all the muscle memory of doing the prostrations. You have the mental memory of being able to recite the mantra and so on. And as you're doing it, you're viewing, keeping an eye on the lineage tree and so on. That becomes your motivation and so on, your aspiration and your actualization to join that and so on. But your mind begins to drift a little bit. And when you catch it drifting, you bring it back to what is the tree and so on. But sometimes your mind drifts to the tree itself to say, well, what is that image on the tree? What is that image on the tree? What is this on the tree? And what it does, it gives you incentive to go and do some research and to try and go through and understand totally what that tree is. That it's not just an image in front of you, but it is part of what's inside of you. That you are the tree. And that you are joining the tree, you are becoming the tree. The tree is this whole sangha, is this whole lineage. And all those who have been on the tree, the Drikung Kagyu lineage, at one time, 1,000 years ago or so, was the largest of the lineages in Tibet. It's like the Gelugpa lineage today. The Gelugpa is the lineage of the Dalai Lama, which is the most well-known and popular and so on. But the Drikung Kagyu had that distinction during the time of Jigten Sumgun and after Jigten Sumgun several times. And so it was very well respected. This is the lineage of the yogis. What does that mean? That there are scholars who know all the prayers, who know all the stories, all the narratives, all the different Mahasiddhas and all this and all the logic, all this stuff, all this intellectual consciousness of what the Dharma is and so on. There are those who know all of that and can quote that all day long. But then there are the yogis who take that and maybe don't know all of that stuff. They don't need to know all of that stuff, but they go into the hermitages, the caves or the huts or wherever, to practice and to actually do the transformation, to become the yogi, to become in union with the Dharma. So this Kagyu lineage is that lineage of the yogis. And the Drikung is the one, is Lord Jigten Sumgun from the village, and this was at one time the most popular and so on. So, so that's a little bit of background to understand, and that what you're doing is you're harmonizing with it. You become part of that, and so all the prayers, all the blessings, all the work that has been manifested for the benefit of the enlightenment of other beings, you are harmonizing with that. It hasn't died. It's still there. That vibration is still there. It doesn't go away. And we, through this practice, bodily, we are harmonizing with that. Intellectually, through our voice, through the recitation, we are harmonizing with that. And our heart opens up to it. And it's been there the whole time. It's just been blocked up. We haven't seen that. So during this time of the prostrations, there will be times when, there's great epiphany. You're really flowing. There's no thought. You're just flowing with it and so on. And it's a magnificent state to become part of. So if you can do it, that's great. If you can't do it, you do what you can. You do the 5-pointed where you use your knees on the floor. If you have to, you stand and do it, whatever you can. The main thing is to be able to open up your heart to do the recitations is part of that. But it really is, I can't, rationalize that we'll have the same benefit if we don't do the prostrations. I think the prostrations are definitely an integral part of this. So if we don't accomplish it in this lifetime, we're sowing seeds, aren't we, for the next lifetime? however it should come. And that should give you a real sense of the continuity, of the continuum that we are on. Lance is not going to be here in 20, 30 years. And Gary and Matthew and Debbie and Ryan and Alex, at some point in time, we're not going to be here anymore. And we're not going to come back in as Lance or as Gary or as Matthew, etc. But our energy, that which we have sowed the seeds for, is what continues. That virtue, that inexpressible bodhicitta is what continues. And we're developing the realization of that and the acceptance of that and the rejoicing of that. So this is all part of this practice. Identifying all the lineage tree and then becoming one with the lineage tree. Anybody have any questions?
So, Lance, I wonder if there is any trick to count to like more than 10.
Oh, very good. Thank you. Very good question.
Well, you do it.
Very good. Excellent question. Thank you very much. A traditional way of doing it is with the beads. That's why we did the mala blessing and everything earlier. And, but that's not as easy, you can try it, see how you like it and everything. You can place the beads on the floor in front of you so that when you go down and touch your forehead to the ground, you extend your hands, you also move a bead, to indicate that you just finished one prostration. But that doesn't work real good because the beads kind of get mixed up and everything, your hand slips and all that kind of stuff. Another way of doing it is to take little pebbles, little stones, and have a pile of them. Say you use 20 or 25. And every time you go down and you touch your forehead to the ground, you reach over to one of the pebbles and you move it over to the other side of you. So you can, move the pile from one side to the other side. And you know that you will have done 20 prostrations or whatever, however many stones that you put there. And then you can go back from one side back to the other side. So I did 20 here, and now I'm doing 20 there. So I did 40. I did 20 here, now I'm doing 60, something like that. So you can do that. That's a very effective way. You can use wooden matches. I've done that before. I got a box of wooden matches. When I was first doing this, I used wooden matches. And you have a pile of wooden matches. You do the same thing. So you're not having to think about, well, did I do 10? Did I do 11? Did I do 20? You're actually counting and keeping track of it that way. So that's very effective. And the third way that I've done it that I think is very effective is using the matches, using the stones or the pebbles, and then timing yourself. How much time it takes you to do those 20 pebbles or 25 pebbles or whatever. And maybe it takes you 5 minutes to do those 20 prostrations by way of counting with those pebbles or matchsticks. And then you say, oh, okay, it takes me 5 minutes to do that. So that if I want to do 100 prostrations, now it takes me 20 minutes to do it. So I look at my clock, I have a timer or something, and I start at 0 and I go to the 20-minute time, and I know I will have done 100 prostrations. Now, you develop a rhythm to it, so you know that you're keeping time, but at the same time, every now and again, you go back to using the counting, the pebbles or the sticks, just to make sure that your rhythm is synchronized properly. that you haven't gotten slow or something like that. I can tell you that it took me, I didn't start doing this till I was 59 years old. And I was working at the time. And so I started off, doing 20 or 30, something like that. And then slowly I got into the rhythm and I was enjoying it. And I got up to doing 50 and so on. And then maybe I got up to doing 100. I would take an hour and a half in the morning or whatever. I got up extra early to do this. And I was enjoying it. It became the thing that I wanted to do. And if I didn't do it, my whole day was out of balance. If you go to the gym and you go to the gym regularly, if you stop going to the gym, you don't feel right physically. But with this, not only do you not feel right physically, but emotionally and spiritually, you don't feel right. I didn't make my connections today. So there's a built-in motivation for this that it keeps you on track doing this. So the point I'm trying to get to is I started when I was 59. I retired from work when I was 62 years old. And I was still doing the prostrations. I don't remember how many I had accumulated by that time. Maybe it was 20,000 or 30,000 or something like that. I had set the goal that I was going to do 111,111. I was going to do them all. I made that commitment to myself that I was going to do that. So when I retired, then I was able to get a little bit more serious about it, and I could spend more time developing the practice, understanding the practice better, and physically doing it. I got to a point where I did 600 in a day, where I would do, and that wiped me out. I did 600, but I couldn't do any more for the next few days. I was just too tired. So that didn't work. I backed up to 500. Well, I got a little bit better at being able, but it was still affecting my second and third and fourth days. It took me a while to recover from that. So then I got to a point where I was able to do 400 prostrations a day. And that was a good thing for me. There were days when I did 300. There were days when I did 200. There were days when I took a day off, or maybe 2 days, things like that, and you just kind of modulate it to your lifestyle and the way, your physicality is and so on. But that first 10,000, like I said, was the most difficult. But then after that, it becomes much more effortless in terms of having to make yourself do it and the mechanics of doing it. So getting yourself up to a respectable number, whatever that is for you, and to allow yourself to grow. A major influence on me, a major inspiration for me was my teacher, Drupal Tinley Ningpo, would always talk about his uncle in his teachings, to all of us, and his uncle was 70 years old at the time. And he would tell us that his uncle continues to do 1,000 prostrations every day. Now, Drupal would not lie. So I have no doubt
amazing, truly amazing,
that this was true. Drupal is a very strong person, mentally, physically, spiritually, and so on. And he has circumambulated with his uncle around Mount Kailash several different times, where you might have seen films, of Tibetans going out and, wearing an apron and so on, and having sticks and everything, and going out and prostrating as a form of walking, like like an inchworm, going along. And they went around. It takes all day to do that, but when you walk, but to do it prostration wise, it takes several days. And they would camp on the trail. They would spend the night on the trail and then get up in the morning and continue doing their prostrations for however many they needed to do to continue their journey around the ambulation and so on. So this is the kind of dedication that they have. And this was inspiration to me, and that's why it's so great to share these films with everybody, to see this culture and so on. And if we give ourselves time to do these things, the reward in our connection points is just totally amazing, is indispensable, I think. And as I've said many times, the Ngöndro practices, and this beginning the first part, is the most important thing, is the thing that I enjoyed the most and had the most power for me to engage in the Buddha Dharma. So thank you, Alex, for the question about how to keep the accumulation. And then I have there's books, there's calendar books that you can get. I've got one here that is every day, has a page, or there's several days on here. And I would use a calendar, and a Tibetan calendar. There's lots of things you can use, but I can turn you on to these other things. And then I would just keep the count of what I did for that day. So maybe, it was 100, 200, 300, 400, whatever it was, and I would keep track of that. And then I would tally it up at the end of the week or the end of the month or something like that, and keep running track of how many I had accumulated. So, when you get to 90,000, you say, wow, that's going to take me a month or 2 months or whatever it is. I'm near the end, but then you got 100,000. Now you got to do another 10,000, 11,111. But it becomes a piece of cake. And it gives you such confidence in doing all these other practices, all these other things that we Shenrezig practice, Amitabha practice, all these other deity yoga practices that we engage in, or meditation that we engage in, becomes a piece of cake. Because the hard thing was done at this beginning part now. And the confidence that you get from that is just, you can't even express it. And the connection points that you have, your heart becomes this jewel. You realize this jewel within yourself. Any other questions or comments?
When you were doing all of this, Lance, in the ways you were describing, were you doing other practices as well? Or was this the sole practice you were doing during that time of accumulation?
This is the sole practice. There wasn't anything else. I might go to teachings. I would go up to TMC in Frederick, and I would go to teachings and participate in that day. But I would have done my morning practice before I did that. Maybe my morning practice was an hour or 2 hours, but when I retired, I had more time. But I wasn't doing something during the middle of the week that was different than this practice. So I would, I wasn't, sometimes I would get up at 5 o'clock, but more than often I would get up around 6:30, something like that. And I would go till 11 o'clock or so. I'd turn on, I don't know if you guys use on your telephone that you've got the automatic thing that puts your phone to sleep at 10 o'clock at night. And then it wakes it back up automatically at 11 o'clock in the morning or whatever times you choose. So I would use that so I wouldn't be interrupted. I didn't look at my phone or television or anything. I didn't talk to anybody. My wife was downstairs, but I'm up here doing my practice. And she knew that that was my time to do that.
So, what if there is like some kind of other like recitation practice that you would like to accomplish as well? Like, would you have energy for any recitation, or by the time you're done, like close to an hour of that, you'll be like totally wiped out of the breath? Is best not to do anything because you're just exhausted.
Well, you recover pretty fast, you know. You're not wiped out for the whole day, and you're building up, you know, your stamina to be able to do it. And then you're increasing, you know, you say, oh, now I don't get out of breath so much. You know, I'm going to add another 50 to my daily practice. So you go from 100 to 150. Then after a month, you add on another 50 or something like that. So you're building up strength, physical strength. And it's your mind that's playing with you, saying, oh, why are you doing this? You're wasting your time. You know, all these games you start thinking about. Oh, I could be doing this. I should be doing that. You know, but when you make this your primary thing and say, I'm not going to do anything else till I finish this, is a real accomplishment. And that becomes the thing that you're overcoming, is your ego. These prostrations in the very first part, because we are Western people, and we are taught, especially here in the United States, we are taught we don't bow to anybody. And here we are bowing, prostrating ourselves to this lineage tree and all that it represents. And this is really conflicting with the ego. This is how you rest your ego. Because to really become on the tree, you have to overcome the ego. So all the times that we talk about how do we break through the ego, well, this is actually how it's done in the old country when you're 19, 20 years old. But as I point out, you know, I didn't do it till I was 59, or start doing it till I was 59. And it took me 12 years to finish. I'm 77 now. I finished a few years ago, and it was great, you know. But that's including, you know, that's going from one practice to the next. Because there's 4 practices in the Ngöndro. So to do the refuge part, I don't remember how many years it took, but that was the major part of it. And if I started at 59, I retired at 62, and probably I did it for another year or so after that. So it probably took about 4 years to do this refuge part.
And honestly, like my initial reaction is, and this is maybe is the ego, and if I knew what was best, I don't know what's best, but I don't know. It makes me kind of sad to think of like not doing any other form of practice for the next like 7 or 8 years of my life or something. That's my initial like kind of visceral reaction. Maybe that's the whole point, maybe on some level.
Well, that remember, it was designed to do when you're 19, 20 years old, and it prepares you for doing those practices. The lifestyle in the monasteries is that if you enter the monastery when you're a child, you're 8 years old, something like that, you know, and you're doing all the chores in the monastery, you know, you're working in the kitchen, you're working in the garden, you're helping to clean up, you're learning all these things. And then there's times when everybody comes together, once or twice or 3 times a week or on special holidays when people come together for the prayers and for some of the practices. But the prayers you're learning to memorize, you're learning the melodies and so on. But the deity yoga practices, as a young kid, you're not really participating in, and you're definitely not taught about them. Even as a teenager, you're going through the same thing, but now you have more responsibility where you have the young kids that you're leading to do all these chores and stuff, and you're part of, those weekly prayer meetings, and when you do the special holidays and they do deity yoga and everything, you're doing the practices, but you're really not taught what the meaning of the practices are. And then you become 18, 19 years old, 20 years old, and you have the aspiration to want to do the 3-year retreat. Not everybody does it. And the supervising monks, the retreat masters, they might select you to say, oh, you show all the qualities of being a good practitioner, and you should do the 3-year retreat. Or there's those who say, I want to do the 3-year retreat. And then they accept you, and then you go into the 3-year retreat, and then the first thing is the Ngöndro practice. And then you finish that, and then you are doing the Fivefold Path of Mahamudra. In other words, learning how to properly meditate. Then, after that, you come out of the 3-year retreat, and then you start learning about the deity yoga practices, what the deity yoga practices are. So you're not even doing them, learning what they mean, until you're 23, 24 years old. But you become a proper vessel in the process. So you shouldn't think that you're missing something. You're actually becoming a better human being. You're becoming a better yogi by doing this. That's why Lord Jigten Sumgön says in the book, we read in the introduction. How do you phrase it? Refuge practice is the essence of all other practices. Therefore, one should always emphasize this practice. It has inconceivable beneficial effects. Through this practice, one can achieve the fearless state. That's on page 24. And then on page 1, it says, at the bottom of the last stanza of page 1, it says, the great 12th century Tibetan saint, Lord Jigten Sumgön, the second Nagarjuna, the founder of the Drikung Kagyu, said the Ngöndro is even more important than the higher practices. One must truly understand and practice the simple yet profound foundational teachings before one begins the higher teachings. So I probably said the same thing that you just said. Oh, I want to do those higher teachings. And I started doing them. But then through my own volition, I said, you know what? I don't have the conviction. I don't have the power that I know I need to do. And then somehow or another, all of a sudden, I started recognizing that there were these Ngöndro practices. At TMC, see, here's something about what the Tibetans, the monks and everything coming to the West, they're bringing, these teachings and so on, and they're trying to capture people's imaginations and their attention and help them in the best way that they think they know how. And Americans in particular, but Western people too, I don't need that fundamental stuff. I'm better than that. I already got this stuff done. Just give me the end of the book. You know? And that's a fault. And I think that the Tibetans, for the most part, not all of them, I'm sure, they go along with that because you got to meet people where they are. So the people, that's where they are. Give me the important stuff. Give me the good stuff. Give me the sexy stuff, the fun stuff. Highest yoga tantra. That's where I want to be. I don't want to be at the sutra level. I don't want to be at the discipline level, the Hinayana. I don't need that. I've been through college. I've had a career working. I've raised a family. I don't need all that. But you don't realize that as you're doing all that highest yoga tantra stuff without doing the Ngöndro, it's like building your house on sand. Because there will be challenges to those practices, that those practices will just collapse. The accumulations from those things will collapse because you will be challenged in one way or another in your life and so on, and they will collapse. But by having these foundational practices is like building them on bedrock. They will not collapse. And the essence of what those highest yoga tantra teachings are and practices, the essence of those is the Ngöndro. The essence of it. In other words, if all you do is the Ngöndro, you can achieve enlightenment.
Yeah, and I also want to be mindful. I don't want to monopolize from all my Dharma brothers and sisters.
It's okay. It's okay.
But I guess, how does it relate to like practice to bodhicitta? Actually, where I'm coming from particularly isn't necessarily this. Is now what you're saying is where I was coming from when I was first introduced to some of these practices like 10 years ago, but is more of like the other foundational practices, I guess, and like just even like the four measurables or some of what we've done before practices, and like just the self, like getting rid of my self-cherishing and like selfishness, and like being able to like go like spend time like helping my parents, helping other people, just like getting out of this self-centeredness, and also I guess like getting the insight to seeing the nature of my mind beyond my ego and stuff like that. But
well, you got to move in a progressive way,
yeah.
and you got to look at the tree, and you look at the trunk of the tree that is in the samsara, and we still have half of our body stuck in that ocean of samsara, and all our friends and family are completely immersed in that ocean of samsara. And the best help we can help them is by us freeing ourselves to whatever degree we can to be able to help them, because we never turn our back on them. But we're purifying ourselves by being on the tree so that we can help them better. If you're talking about financial help, if you're talking about having to take your parents to the doctor and stuff like that, you're still going to be able to do that. But there's going to be something different in the way in which you feel about that, and the way that they may see in you, and the liberation that you have by doing these practices and so on. So you're not turning your back on them.
Well, I imagine that just practice.
I just want to make one point, and I'll come right back to you, and that is we got to look at the ego. What is it that is wanting us to move away from this foundation? Ego, because the ego is going to lose in this. And the ego does not want to lose. And it will present all kinds of doubts and questions and reasons not to engage in this. That's how insidious the ego is. Alex?
Yeah, that's what a what a better way to work on diligence and other perfections. And yes, that's what I was gonna say, that it's basically we doing what is not comfortable for us to do, what is not pleasurable, or like not self-aggravating, like self-engrossing. Some
Self-aggrandizement.
aggrandizement. Yes, that's the right word. So yeah, and I like we can also think of it from like neurophysiological perspective. It helps build up this kind of circuits in our brain that can control ourselves and really solidify them and make them robust. So when any adversity comes in, our mind is still stable and not going crazy, not going into hatred or despair or whatever, because we're just doing this in normal conditions. And if we can do well, if we cannot do this in normal conditions, like at adversity, we cannot do anything good.
That's
And then
right.
of course, physiological, I think it's, from what I see, it's important, and I see it in other practices, like for example, Orthodox Christianity. It's not these days, but it used to be in old days. You read the books of classics, people do a lot of vows every day in Orthodox Christianity, and that's what some saints did, and it's kind of like almost yogic practices that they did. We heard.
Sure.
So it resonates in different levels. And of course,
So
there is also this in the brain, there is this spinal synovial fluid, and cerebrospinal fluid that get washed back and forth when you bend up and down. It's not, I think, just physical exercise, which is great, and for limbs and all that, but also like the internal circulation of fluids in the brain that helps purify, our internal, more on energetic and physical level. Those thoughts come to me.
yes, and you're correct. So there's the wisdom aspect, the aspirational aspect, putting all this together. Why are we doing this and everything? Then there's the actual part, the method part, that we are doing this and we're having glimpses, we're breaking through. And then there's the blessing aspect, which is the teacher, which is the guru, to inspire you to keep doing it. You're on the path. Keep doing it. The blessing of those who have accomplished this, who are inspiring you to keep moving. You're on the right path. That's the blessing.
Yeah, that was really great, Alex. What you had shared was really cool, and I just want to say real quick, Lance, that was kind of like a bit of an unlocking moment for me when you were saying like the ego is going to lose in this, like how much the ego doesn't want to be doing this, or that the resistance to it. So that was a very powerful statement or way of looking at it for me.
Absolutely. Yes. And what we're going to do is we're going to reassign, we're going to control the ego. You can't annihilate the ego, but we can reassign it, we can control it. So first we got to, get it under control. So this is all part of that. So we've come to 12 o'clock. I'm more than glad to talk more about this. We haven't, gotten too far, but this was a very good, introduction, I think, to the lineage tree. And as we move forward with this practice, which will continue next week, you'll see more connection points. And that's what this is about. That's what this intellectualization of this is being introduced to all the connection points. And then if you're able to engage in this, then that's fine. If you can't engage in it, you're not ready to engage in it, that's fine. No harm, no foul, but to know that this is there, and one day, one lifetime, when you're in a position to be able to engage, you will have the karma. You will have that karmic seeds, that karmic wind behind you that will help move you in this direction, along with whatever negative things might be happening. But this karma can be stronger than all that negative stuff. So this is all part of understanding how that balance works and so on. But it's with this foundation that we're able to do all of that successfully.
Lance, and one more question. So this, the accumulations of preliminary practices, is prostrations the main part of it, or it has to be together with certain number of sessions and certain number of some kind of other mantra repetitions?
Well, the accumulation is, like I said, 100,000. So that's the refuge part. Then the next part after that is the purification Vajrasattva part. 100,000 accumulation there.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that is the accumulation of wisdom and merit. The bodhicitta, the mandala offering part. That's 100,000. And then after that is the guru yoga part. And that's 100,000.
So that is just a preparation for the other parts that cannot.
Well, this is the first part.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first part. So we can do the this refuge part and the purification part. We can do them kind of together, So I'll explain that another time. But you can do them kind of together. But then you can't start the mandala offering or the guru yoga until you finish these two, and then those two have to go in sequence themselves. So there's a system, this is a system that has stood the test of time, and some people will say, oh, it's not necessary. But, I'm enough old school to say it's transformative. All right, so let's go to page 37, please.
Thank you.
In your book. And we'll do the dedication prayers. So 37, everybody recite out loud. Dorje Chang, Talopa, Naropa, Marpa, Milarepa, Dormalur Gampopa, Pagmadrupa, and Lord Drikung. Please bestow upon us the most auspicious blessing of all the Kagyu Lamas. By this virtue may I achieve the all-knowing state, and may all who travel in the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death cross the ocean of samsara by defeating all enemies, confusion, the cause of suffering. Bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. I pray that the Lama may have good health. I pray that the Lama may have long life. I pray that your Dharma activity spread far and wide. I pray that I may not be separated from you. As Manjushri and likewise Samantabhadra realize the ultimate state, Buddhahood, I will follow in their path and share the merit for all sentient beings. by the blessing of the Buddha who attained the three kayas, by the blessing of the truth of the unchanging Dharma as such, by the blessing of the indivisible Sangha order, may the merit I share bear fruit. By the virtues collected in the three times, by myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and by the innate word of virtue, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious enlightenment. May the teachings of the great Drikung Kagyu Shri, who is omniscient, Lord of the Dharma, master of interdependence, continue and increase through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara. Om, Ah, Hum. Om, Ah, Hum. Om, Ah, Hum. May my body, speech, and mind become inseparable with the body, speech, and mind of all the enlightened ones for the benefit of all beings. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Lance. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Lance.
You're welcome. Thank you.